Okay, it's 1:30. Let's call the meeting to order. Just a reminder, if you could silence your cell phones. Town clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Goldberg,
Yes.
Commissioner David,
Present.
Vice Mayor Stern,
Present.
Mayor Moore,
Present.
Town Manager Labadie,
Present.
and Town Attorney Rubin.
Present.
Please
Whatever his
rise.
name is.
The guy next to you.
Please rise for the pledge.
It's their first meeting.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any public comments? Lynelle, are there any public comments today?
There's
no public comments.
Okay.
Pretty much public.
All right, we can move on to item number 5, the construction management at risk agreement.
All right. It's that echo you get on your cell phone. So before you, you have the very light document, easy reading, construction manager at risk contract. I see the rest of our design construction team is coming in. I will have them come forward, introduce themselves, answer any specific questions that you have. But again, is your contract, you'll see that it references the RFP, the pre-construction services contract we had with Kaufman Lynn. And so this is a culmination of, we've been working as a collective group, coming up with the final design, final series of costs. And again, oh, sorry, I wasn't even on there. I apologize if you didn't hear me. But the construction manager at risk, we're going to amend this next week with the contract price that will have some other provisions or additional provisions that are associated with it. That'll get to some of your questions on scheduling, this and that. There'll be some other work that's outside of this that we will get from the design team for our cash flow needs. So I can get that over to the finance director, so we know how to pull from reserves and our loan that we have in place. So there's a series of documents and activities that are going on. But this is the main construction manager at risk document. So they will pull all of the subcontractors in, be responsible for the performance of all these subcontractors, reporting back to us. The biggest thing that you'll see different than a design bid build, in essence, we've hired the general contractor, for which they will work in concert with us to close out all of the subcontracts, various subcontracts. And then when if there is potentially a savings, that goes back to the project fund. So, but they give us a guaranteed maximum price, which we will see next week. So that's their risk as the general contractor. If it goes above that without any changes in scope driven by us, they own it. So if it, if all of a sudden, I don't sense it will, looking at John right now, but if it does go over that price, that's the risk that Kaufman Lynn carries, that if the project changes, that they have to own those prices. So again, it's a quite extensive contract. We still yet have an amendment to it. Once that's in place, what you don't have before you, and I'll have them speak to it, is the construction schedule. And the 2 points that you need to know is, I keep on saying a mid-April start. Looking at the team, I can't give you that date because it kind of moves around a bit, but the more important date is substantial completion, April 14th, 2024. That means we can start using it in the appropriate form, storing equipment, putting the trucks in there, responding out of that by April 14th of next year, which will be about 2 weeks prior to our go live date or wheels hot date of May 1, 24 for our fire station. So we will be doing some stuff once we go live, moving from the old station to the new station, but it'll be functional and usable for response prior to our start date. And then they have a substantial completion. I would suggest you think of it like punch list items on something you've constructed in your life, your home, an office building. You can, the space looks great and it's done, but there's, this list of 50 things that need to be finished. They missed some molding, there's some electrical outlets missing, they didn't tie this out, or this plumbing fixture didn't come in on time. We got to be able to knock those things off, but that'll all be done by June 14th. So it's a total of 14 months from start to finish. Again, the focus is on those dates. So it's guaranteed maximum price and guaranteed maximum finish date too. Slightly different on this project, but we need those dates are a must. They totally understand that as our construction manager, that we have to have that. There is no option barring force majeure type events, things of that nature. I know the mayor had reached out, hurricanes, what happens, those are things that we have to learn to live with down here. They will speak to the various type of insurance instruments that we have in place to guarantee and protect builders' risk, contractor liability, bond on the project. So we've afforded protections within the cost structure for those type of situations. Again, Mr. Rubin, along with Mr. Atlas with Kaufman Lynn, put together this easy read. And we'll be able to answer any very specific questions. Mr. Rubin will be able to answer any of the legal elements that for the project, our team, internal teams here. So that's really the presentation is to approve it. There is no cost with it, nothing really exciting to really get into, which is what the general public, again, that comes next Tuesday with the amendment with the guaranteed maximum price, which was in their packet. For the commissioners, you do have a preview to those numbers. So you kind of know, and I've spoken with each of you on those numbers. Those will be presented back to you for formal adoption next Tuesday. So with that, if I could have Kaufman Lynn and P-Gal, everybody come up, introduce yourselves. That way I don't hack everyone's last names. And kind of Jeff, if you're going to kind of coordinate for everybody, kind of walk us through construction manager risk, expectations, things of that nature, that would be helpful as well.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Zalkin, Vice President, Kaufman Lynn Construction, here with the, I'll let them introduce themselves so we get the title and position. But on behalf of Kaufman Lynn, we are humbled and honored to be your partner. And I use that word partner for a reason. This is a partnership. It's worked as a partnership with the staff, with everyone going forward. The whole process that the town has selected gets the best results. This will be about I don't have all the figures in front, but about the 24th fire station in South Florida we've done. And by far the way you're doing it gets the best, where you basically take the money, gets all known, it's open book, and you put that to the side and we all work around the table towards the goals. And the incentive isn't the money, like you heard, if there's savings on the project, it comes back to the town. It doesn't come, it's not additional profit for us. These are all things that we like to do because it's all about the success. We know town doesn't have a robust building program. You don't have like 6 more you're doing, but we're counting on you all to tell the next city and the next town that we're so happy with PJL and Kaufman Lynn that you would recommend us. So we understand what your needs are. We're located right in Delray Beach headquartered. So we have residents that are in this area that utilize all the services here, including the fire. So we understand the importance, and we understand the importance of having it open on time, the quality that you are looking for, and the certainty. I could tell you construction is not easy. It's not simple. There are things that are going to come up, and we will work to make sure we mitigate it. We will do everything. We'll let the lawyers. We didn't bring our lawyer because this is not a lawyer discussion. We leave the lawyer back, but we'll always do things, obviously, that have to be done contractually. But then we'll also get around, if a hurricane hits, we know that's a chief concern. We'll look at, say, how do we mitigate the time? And we'll let the lawyers work out and just making sure the paperwork is done properly. But we understand your concerns, and we will work towards that every step of the way. So thank you. I'll turn it over to Michelle.
Sure. Hi, my name is Michel Maka. I'm a project executive for Kaufman Lynn. I will be responsible for the construction of your fire station, from the first shovel to the ground to giving you the keys. My team will be here every day. I'm going to have at least the superintendent and project manager on site. I'll be here at least twice a week, or as needed, but at least twice a week. Again, my office is only a couple of miles down the road. Any questions? I mean, I work with the guys during pre-construction. You seem like a great group to work with. And like Jeff just said, we are a partner, and please consider us as such. Feel free to reach out to me if any questions here, as during the duration of this project. So we are at your service for the matter.
Hello, I'm John Huddleston with Kaufman Lynn, pre-construction manager, chief estimator. This process has been an accelerated effort and a very collective group working together with the design team, with your staff, Marshall. We've been working on a meeting on a weekly basis and getting all the many smaller items taken care of, which will help the end result in getting your facility put together. And I appreciate your time and efforts as well. Normally, pre-construction comes before operations, but in this case, Michelle's got you in good hands. Thank you.
Sam Jobia, thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Sam Ferrari, a principal with PGL Architects in Boca Raton. We're just happy to be to the day where we're getting ready to start construction. It's been a long process. We learned a lot. I think the positive, I thought about this yesterday a lot, is when we started the process and we were basically going to renovate the existing fire station and found out Delray was not going to move out of the building, it became a challenge. So I think we've looked at every piece of this property where we could potentially fit a fire station. But over that process, I think what really happened that really helped us is you hired your chief, you started to hire the staff that are really going to run this facility. And so having their feedback and input into the final design that's going right behind you is very positive. And I think that's what's really helped to get to the finish line, which I call the finish line, which is the start line. But we're very anxious to come to fruition on this project. I think you are also, and I live across the bridge in Delray, so I hear, two different sides of this story, but I also see in my neighborhood that your ambulance responds to almost every call in my neighborhood. And it's kind of like, I live in Delray, but Highland Beach truck responds. So I think it's going to be nice when Highland Beach responds in Highland Beach and Delray stays on their side of the boundary line. But so we're excited. And I want to introduce Joby Ballant, who is really our day-to-day guy that leads our team. And even though we're finishing our drawings and, getting to permit, we will be here with you and Kaufman Lynn to make sure that the design intent is met to opening day and the station is what you thought you were going to get, you're going to get.
Afternoon. Yeah, my name is Joby Ballant. I'm a project manager / architect / many hats with PGL. I wish I could say, I just live next door. Actually, I live a little further south, but our office is, as the crow flies, is just straight to the west. Like Sam said, this has been a very fun and interesting project. I think with having to look at almost every available inch of property you have, I think in the end, in working with the staff, working with your chief, I think everybody kind of recognized that, you're going live with your own fire department. And so it just can't be a fire station. There's got to be a little bit of admin space. And I think we did kind of hone in on probably that sweet spot. Is it a very grand and large station? No, but it does meet your needs and it will work in the future. And again, appreciate the opportunity to work on the project and working with your chief and staff. They've been a real treat. It's, like I say, fire stations kind of to me has always been a fun project type to work on, because in a way, it's a way of me kind of helping the community give something back to the community. So again, I'll be your day-to-day contact. There really is no hierarchy. So both Sam and myself are always talking about the project on a day-to-day basis in the office. So whatever is sent to me, he's always in the loop, and what's sent to him, I'm always in the loop. Again, thank you.
Mayor, that'll bring it back to you.
Let's start with comments. Judy, Commissioner Goldberg, would you like?
Thank you. Certainly it was a good weekend read. I must say that.
Yeah.
And there seems to be what, 85 pages, just that one document, but there was the specificity. I think you may have covered it in your remarks, that there will be an amendment. And that will deal with a lot of that. On the face of it, I take it that you're going to be the project manager, our project manager on the town side. Is that correct?
Correct. And we kind of hit to that, Sam and Joby kind of hit to that with their contract. They're switching from design to design owner's rep a little bit as it relates to everything design wise, everything we put on the plans. Those two have to make sure it comes to fruition with and in partnership with Kaufman Lynn. But from the town's perspective, myself and Chief Joseph will be, if you will, the internal project manager making all those final decisions that require owner decisions. Chief Joseph will probably do more of the operational, and that's where I say both of us, because there's going to come a point in time, as the group had pointed out, where really it's Chief Joseph has to make that call. Where do you want this to be? Or does this make more sense? You know, I could make that decision, but I'd rather have him, as I'm going to hold him accountable, as you will, to deliver out of this structure and provide those services. So Chief Joseph and I will work closely on that. He'll probably be day to day. Again, the beauty of a small town, smaller project for everybody, we're right here. I mean, I just walk, 12 yards out of my office, I'm in the active construction site. Sorry about that. But that'll happen, that we'll be so close to everybody that we'll see what's going on. But you're correct. Yes, myself and Chief Joseph.
So I noticed the pre-construction agreement was 60,000. And I'm wondering, from a budget perspective, where is that allocated? Is it part of the 8.2? Or is it on the?
Yeah, it's not part of the final construction project cost that you see in the profit that they've identified as the CM fees, as you guys call it, project fees, management fees, however language we come up with. No, that's outside of it. That was more in the design elements. And basically that came at the encouragement of Sam and Joby that at some point, as we design and based on our timeline, we needed to get the contractor to the table with the architect. So we don't come up with this design that we love. And then, oh, you can't build this. This isn't available. This is going to lead time is beyond the scope of the project. Did you think about this? So it ended up being a really good design process to bring the contractor to the table. And again, I think I'd go back to what Jeff was saying. That's the CM at risk model with the pre-construction services part really does allow us to condense that design lead time that bigger towns usually have a couple of years on this. We're putting it down, what guys, with 4 or 5 months. So we're kind of just crushing this final design leg. So that's a design fee. It's part of the project, but it's in the front end of it versus at the construction end.
Certainly well done and necessary for a project this size. So again, this may be in your amendments. I was interested in it. I couldn't locate it. The payment intervals, what milestones are going to be reached. I take it that's going to be put in the ancillary.
This agreement, it's a monthly. So it's a monthly and it's based on work completed. And then there's a formula for the fee, and then there's retainage that's held back 5%, which is what the statute provides for. That gets held back until the project's done. Not that they won't do everything perfectly, but you just never know.
So on the funding, so with respect, are we drawing against the debt as we go, much like a residential construction contract?
So to date, we have 4 million from the reserves for the fund balance policy, which I'll bring back. David and I will bring back to you to amend a little bit, because we never made it to 10 because we were overly optimistic. And I learned a lot about the supply chain and construction environment, which was good, bringing them in, especially on this inflationary period where we experienced 35%, 40% increase in costs over the last 18 months from when we sat down and came up with the design. I remember, I think it was Evelyn even said, shouldn't we just add a little bit more? You never know what could happen. I was like, no. we got this huge contingency. There's no possible, well, we found that time where we ran into that. So, I lost my train of thought, but you know, we're in a good spot where we will figure that all out as we get through that. So we'll ask probably for another $1 million on the fund balance policy to tie to 5. We had a $5 million loan. We have until November. Yep. So about November to do our first draw. So we'll probably, based on how David and I look at, we'll probably talk with the project to figure out cash flow, right? We still got to do a cash flow projection on the project of when we're going to start getting hit with the draws. And then I'll work with David. David will have some suggestions of, you know, maybe we take our loan, you know, August, we'll take that. So I still have to give that to you. And the way I've communicated to the commission is that as we move forward, we'll come up with authorize us to make these draws. So the commission is going to sit in the driver's seat. David and I will say, we need this, you know, this bucket, then this bucket, and then we'll start getting the loan in place and moving forward. Now, again, if the 5-year forecast model, David did put in his model for the fire, the interest on the loan, all that stuff was calculated. Remember the net present value, all that interesting stuff that he likes to talk about, was all in there and accounted for. So it's just a matter of when we do that poll.
So also I noticed that there's reference in a number of different locations in the agreement as to subcontractors that are outside it's my phraseology, work orders, not work order, but of subcontractors for which the town will be responsible for. So could you identify which ones, what was that reference to? Was it the regular subs that you may call in to do other work, ancillary work separate and apart?
Again, Sam Ferrari for the record. There are a couple of subcontractors. One of them is the notification system that the county that your fire department will tie into. It's called Locution. We've kind of put the infrastructure in our documents, but the final design and the final installation is by this company that's authorized through the county. So we kept that separate. So they'll come in at the very end, they'll do all the radios, all the wiring connection, but the conduits and power, everything will be there for them. And that'll be directly with the town so that there's no third party like Kaufman Lynn being in the middle of that, because that is such a critical system. So that's the biggest example that I can. Go ahead, David. John.
Sure. There'll be some other systems, some low voltage systems that should be doing some data and IT, computer, television, cable, things like that. We're providing raceways for all those runs, but those are things that you're probably already dealing with on other buildings in your complex. But the Locution is, that is for the notification system for the fire department, and you want to deal directly with them as well.
Yeah, so our IT will come, Teresa's coordinating with Node Zero, who's our IT provider, to pull those things. I guess the other one would be Comcast. Again, channel 99 is going to go dark for a while, folks. I apologize. Comcast, somebody who works for Comcast in the room, I apologize. They're just a little bit slow. So I don't know that they're going to respond as quickly to move some of our stuff out of the way. We have back end security set up. So when that line goes down, we maintain all of our public safety infrastructure, notifications, IT stuff. So, but Comcast and Channel 99 is going to probably go dark for couple 3 months. So, yeah.
So these are what you're mentioning are contractors that we normally do business with.
Correct.
So my question is, are there any that are new that are coming aboard as having been impacted by the building? And if so, is it accounted for in the budget?
Yes, it's accounted for in the budget, and it's going to be, I think the biggest one that's new that we have an unknown with, since we're creating a fire department for the first time, is working with the county and their subcontractor to put in the communication system.
So are there contingency funds set aside or?
Yep.
Earmarked for the, okay. Let me just see if there's anything else I wanted to mention. I think that's it for me for now.
One silly thing to start with, on page 2, section 1.1.16. The last word says village and it should be town.
And I thought I caught all those.
I said it was silly, but it's there.
I did catch one other typo today that I'll correct too, but thank you, Evelyn.
Okay, let me just check, do I have some other things? Does Kaufman Lynn have their own workers? They are the guys who are actually doing the construction.
What you're essentially hiring is a construction manager since to manage the whole process. We do not self-perform. We don't bring our own mechanical, we don't bring our own electrical, because that's sort of like having the fox watch the hen house. So we don't do any of that to make sure we get the oversight and it's not a second profit.
Thank you, that's where I was going, actually. So that's a good thing. And I assume that our building department will be watching you every step of the way as well. And one of the, okay, page 8, Article 3, additional services. I understand that if other things come up that are outside the scope and you have to add to it, that time and service, additional services request, will we be getting an hourly rate so that we know ahead of time that if there are going to be additional fees necessary, we'll have some way of keeping track of what we can expect?
I'll talk to our attorney to coordinate with you for any daily rates. Hourly rates, we can get you hourly rates as well, but it's not necessarily an hourly rate with us. It's more of a, if for any reason you guys had another hall, another office or something, and we need to extend the schedule by a week, there'll be a daily rate for that. But our goal is to start as soon as possible and finish as soon as possible. We know you guys, we don't want to be in front of your building right here. We want to finish it and deliver it to you as well. We're talking to contractors, we're getting them ready to start. So in a couple of weeks, you'll see a fence out there, and soon thereafter.
Yeah, no, daily rate is fine. I just wanted to know that there's some guidelines in place and that it's not just so loose. Hurricanes. Is there an extra cost for breakdown and then restarting? Because I know there's a setup cost.
There is no extra cost,
It's just-
you know.
It's just we lose days.
Might
We
be
lose
extra time.
days. Good thing about hurricanes, we kind of know a bit in advance. So you'll see us shut off. Any loose materials will all be, removed. We'll get it ready for the hurricane. And hopefully we don't have one. And if we do have one, it's a light one. But it will be time mainly. Typically it's mainly time, unless some catastrophic again, like I can't predict. So.
Okay, so we're going to come back to all the different terms, really, the numbers.
Yeah, all the fun part is actually in the next one. I mean, this is the
Okay.
framework of the agreement, but
Yeah, this,
as Marshall was saying, the deadlines, the costs, the liquidated damages.
yeah, a
It's
lot
all
of this
really, all the specifics
is pretty
are in the
much
GMP
boilerplate
amendment. Correct.
language. How are you going to keep the schedule and reports of schedules?
We'll provide you a monthly schedule, which is typical and I think is required regardless. So every month with our requisition, you're going to get an updated schedule, where we are, what have we done, and it will affect our billing and it will affect where the project is. So you'll see that it's a monthly schedule.
Okay,
We internally update it every week, every couple of weeks, but you will have an official updated schedule every month.
and you those records will be available, obviously.
Absolutely, yep. And part of our monthly report, we send you, we have some, what happened this month, what did we do, what did we order? There's pictures of the site, even though it's right here, you'll see so it's elaborate enough so someone who hasn't seen construction, they know what happened that month. So you'll see a schedule, requisition, like I said, paragraphs on what we did and what we're doing for the next month. Yeah.
I'm assuming that because this is going from the ground up, that there should be far fewer unknowns than when you're reconstructing something where things are buried and you have no idea that they're there.
Well, we've been pretty thorough. The design team has been pretty thorough to tell us what's underground. Yes, we shouldn't. I mean, ideally, everything's in the drawings. We've seen, even if there's something minor, we can deal with. I don't see an issue with it. But we've taken all precaution. That's why all this few months we've tried to get as thorough as possible, so there is no surprises. Surprises are good for you and not good for us either. We don't want to, like I said, we want to get
Surprises are bad, yes.
The one thing which goes back to what Marshall said at the beginning, using CM at risk as opposed to design bid build or the hard bid method. The hard bid method, typically a contractor is looking for every which way to change order, to extend time, to extend that, because that's sort of where they're trying to make profit. The way we're doing it, and you've authorized to do it, is actually the opposite. It's incentive to operate as fast as you can, do it as efficiently as you can, and try to avoid change orders, because it honestly costs more for us to really go about it. So the process of construction management risk takes a lot of that out. That's why when Michelle said, like, even if it's small, we're going to figure out, we're going to work with you. It's our intent and goal, and we've done cities and towns over and over to try to not constantly come back, because it just slows things down and causes headaches for everyone.
Thank you. That's all I have for now.
Thank you. My questions are basically schedule related. Is the plan based on Monday through Friday, or is there contingency for different hours, Saturday quiet work? How is it planned?
It's typically Monday through Friday. We make up any lost days on Saturdays. And we encourage our contractors to work Saturdays within the parameters of the town working hours. To schedule is, we need to finish as soon as possible. So you will see us work Saturdays.
And do you have the ability to increase crews based on bad weather and so forth to catch up? Or is
Yes, we have provision in our contract with the subcontractors to make up lost time. We have to hit our dates on the schedule.
My other question relates to parking. I know in the write-up that we'll be able to use some St. Lucy's space, probably, hopefully. My question is, who is going to control it? Is there going to be a limit to how many subs can have vehicles? Or do they have to carpool to come in? Is there going to be a structure to enable us to minimize the parking problem?
Boom. Can't say I'm surprised by this question. That answer actually is still being worked on. We've been in contact with the church. Currently, the ask is, in our opinion, not financially viable for the impact that it would have on the project in the town. And we do consider ourselves stewards of your budget. So there are alternatives that we're thinking of, including parking further away and busing in the subcontractors. We do that on a lot of projects. We've worked in urban settings and where you very much like this, where you don't have that. We will figure it out. We will remain in charge and responsible for both where they park and if it's collective, say at the church, the condition of that. We are encouraging for subcontractors aren't going to carpool together, but the subcontractors themselves, we're encouraging to bring, one car with the workers from that firm as opposed to, 4 different cars. We anticipate sort of maximum, give or take, at peak of only about 20 cars. So it's not a huge volume. But right now that I can't stand here today and say agreements done or anything's done in terms of that. And I've kept the town up to date on that. It's just we'll have a solution and we'll take responsibility for it.
So Vice Mayor Stern, so on that, we're also working with the county to create some contingency on Milani Park. It's not approximate, but it's on the island. So I'm working with the county Parks and Rec staff. Because I could foresee a point in time, Pat really pointed this out to me. If something was to go down on the site and we needed to do work on a well, we're going to be clearing out, even for ourselves. Forget Kaufman Land, not saying forget them. The whole construction site, we could be parked out on the site with just staff and a few residents here and there in the post office and the library. But if we have to work on anything related to the plant, we may need to clear out a third of the parking lot. Where do those folks go to? On that, St. Lucy's been great for the staff to go over there, but also to have Milani Park, just in case, you know, we don't know. So we're trying to secure, at least from the town's end, we're securing what we can. Kaufman Land's working on their side to secure with their subcontractors where they're going at. So hopefully between the two groups, we'll figure it out.
I have, may I have another question? Well, I'd like to also, following up on David's, as far as parking for everyone else, I mean, I would assume that you've done some addressed what the normal flow is here on a daily basis, whether they go to the library, post office, or town offices.
Yeah, we'll send the map. It went out last night. Again, April 7th is a hard close day where we're going to go to the limited site map. Will be employee parking. We do secure public parking in a few locations. Again, if you talk to your neighbors, if you see anybody, tell them to read the stuff we're sending. It's going to be tight, real tight. The commission wanted the post box relocated. We're going to relocate that back to the library. So we're going to do that, but it's going to be tight on the site. I'm looking at flex scheduling for certain departments that can handle it to try to get as many vehicles off the site. I mean, it's that kind of tight parking arrangement. So we're doing everything we can to free that up.
Yeah. When they say only 20 spots. Here, 20 spots is a big deal. It's not an only.
That's like a pile of gold, 20 parking spots.
Yeah.
So we're working through that. We sent that out to the community. I'll have the team send it over to the commission. Maybe we'll send it out to the condos group to post on, post in your library lobbies and places where people are. Just during the Lois is kind of restricting, like we're going to finish season, which is the next few weeks. And then next year, our programming, everything is after hours. We just can't do daytime programming. So you won't have whatever yoga at 10 a.m. or movies at 2. We just can't do it during construction. So those will all be after hours. Employee parking's 8 to 5. After 5 o'clock, we have parking. So that's when the library will accommodate folks here on site for library after hours type events.
And so just to piggyback on that, mention April 7th is when it shuts down. The week of April 10th is when the fence is going around that. So it will literally be closed off at that point.
And that's going to be tricky for folks. We're going to put out the message signs going out. Is Chief Hartman, are you back in the corner?
Yeah.
Raise your hand. Okay, so we're putting the message board out to remind folks how you access site effective April 7th will never be the way you've accessed the site before. Moving forward forever. Once you put the fire station in, there isn't a drive-through in front anymore. It's done. So it's going to be a in and out on this side here on the south side of town hall. That's where you're coming in moving forward. There'll be a parking lot eventually here, but you won't be able to proceed through the site as you always have. So I fear we're trying to do everything we can to anticipate folks are going to try to pull in like they normally do and throw their hands in the air, yell at the closest contractor. So Kaufman Lynn, be prepared to get an earful. I'm sure you'll get a few emails. We're trying to do everything. We put it in the news flash. It's going to be in the manager's monthly that's going to go out here in the next couple of days and just hit that message that the site changes forever starting April 7th. And we're doing everything to identify, communicate, cone off. We're restriping the entrance, trying to do some clear out some vegetation, so it's a little bit easier for folks. But it's just becomes real. Isn't that like a millennial thing, a real? So trying to get my lingo down with my kids too. So it's happening. So April 7th.
So one final question I have, I promise, on the coordinating the services of the firehouse, emergency services, while the construction, and also how, if any work is going to be done on that existing structure. Can you address all of that?
It's a good question. That's kind of the prelude to the second project that we have. It may become a referendum project. Sam and Joby put some cool stuff together of what the old fire station could look like when we go live. I sense it's probably more than $350,000. So we're probably going to have to ask the community via referendum, whether we do it next March or the March after. It'll be seen. Again, once we start construction, then Sam and Joby will start giving me some pricing. I can use Kaufman Lynn. Maybe that's an additional hourly service to what do you think that cost might look like? And again, the idea, if we recall, and I have some pictures, some nice schematics, is the living quarters of the old station goes away. That gets turned back into some additional parking. The old bays we need, but we wanted to put side doors on it. So when we have a community event, we roll those up. And because the station's set back enough, we can pull the vehicles out and then we can have some conditioned space for food trucks, some type of community breakfast, lunches, whatever we want, outdoor movies. We could do those things in this new front space. It's not accounted for in this current budget. We had hoped, maybe wishfully thinking, that if inflation just got us, we lost that little bit of runway that we could have squeezed it in. So it's going to be a separate project and we'll have to see what we want to do with it.
Well, when we last met, there was mention of that 1.9. Is it the grant, the bond, a part of which is being shifted here? I think 500,000 you had. So the remaining funds, can that be earmarked?
Let David and I talk about that a little bit. We had that conversation with Eric a little bit earlier in the week. We do have to make some commitments to that. I think what we need is an expanded project budget discussion. It'll probably start to take off when we start doing draws and how the money, again, based on Torsivia and Ruben's opinion, we can use those funds for these type of expenditures. We couldn't get bidders on the sewer project. The sewer project well exceeded the dollars we got from the federal government. I'm getting word that our lift station appropriation is going quite well. We have the ability to move some stuff around. It's going to be a little bit dynamic in the process that we won't know until each month as we get into it. So it's a good point. We might be able to do that. It'll just depend on what that estimate is. Seems like the new construction world is, 40% more than you ever thought it was before. So your traditional per square foot measures, this and that, everything kind of changed on us. So you're just giving me that's going to be expensive, huh? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So we'll get the estimates and those things. But again, the additional parking is key. And that's why we kind of all like that, of doing that revision to the old fire station. Once we occupy the new, is that we could then continue with those community events we so loved, and they started really becoming popular. And we could potentially have a couple extra bathrooms, some outdoor flex space, some additional parking works really well. And then we would have it adjacent to the new fire station. It really works to have that space back that in the short term will be lost. So you guys will get to pick and choose and what that looks like. We can work with the community to see what that element looks like. But we had some initial drawings. I'll send those back out to you via email. And we'll show you what Sam came up with. It was pretty neat as that how we can convert that old space.
So I had some questions. So the agreement that's before us, sounds like you guys do this all the time. You've mentioned all the different firehouses that you've built. How is this one any different from any of the other agreements that you've made with other towns?
I'll let Glenn.
Yeah, I
speak
don't
on
think it is much different.
No, there's nothing unique.
Because
from-
the framework stays the same,
Okay.
essentially, you know, the way, the responsibilities of the parties, all that kind of stuff stays the same.
Yeah, it's all typical municipal, guidelines.
It's pretty, so do you do, like, at the end of your projects, do you do like a lessons learned, and do you like make improvements to the agreements if any are necessary?
Well, what happened and in this case, one, we do a lot of lessons learned that apply to the project and operationally, so you benefit from all that. But two, there are ever flowing and there are things that do evolve, and actually to the benefit of you all, this agreement was based on another village that had to vet out and go through. Sorry, go ahead. But what happens is each time when it does through, both when you have council and ourselves that keep doing this time and time again, we are bringing those lessons learned through there. So I don't have anything specific to point to because I'm not on point with Glenn on it, but I do know they do evolve, and typically you get the benefit of other municipalities also reviewing and tweaking those.
Absolutely. I think that's a benefit of using.
Right.
A
And this was
company.
originally actually a Palm Beach County's model that's been used by various municipalities.
Okay, that's good. So I think you touched on this, but if you could expand on it. So as you're going along, I imagine you're gonna have supply issues, or there might be opportunities to make substitutions for perhaps maybe less expensive things, hopefully, optimistically, or products that are more readily available as opposed to have a long wait time.
Correct, long lead.
Have you already looked at that, or are those already fleshed out, or will that come up as the project goes?
We already have a list of long lead items, like I was meeting with our steel guy yesterday and our concrete guy, the subcontractors. So what happened, I don't know if you guys know or not, but last year was steel became a big issue and concrete became a big issue, meaning like we could order concrete and the next day would have concrete on site. It became like you have to order now and get it a month later. And steel became the same way. So because of inflation, supply, so we are doing that as right now. My team is already buying out all the subcontractors. Any VE options, we're talking specific long lead items, air conditioning units, there's all kind of items, but mainly we are trying to get everything so we can work within our schedule.
Most of what you're talking about was part of this pre-construction.
Okay,
part
so
of
you already
what-
fleshed a lot
What
of
we
it
do, we
out.
flesh that out. Now what we've done is we bring a lot of the lessons learned to ensure that they really take the risk out of the supply chain and inflation as much as we can. And that's why he's mentioned buying out now. So we're actually getting those agreements with the subcontractors to make sure we're locking things in. So there isn't a tremendous amount of this or that. That's what this early part process hand in hand with the architect
Okay.
to vet that out.
Okay.
And just to add a little bit to that, there are a few items that we're going to procure as a municipality for which they will take delivery. There's some advantages to that. Also going to what they said on long lead items, just to kind of give you reference to the project. It's the first time done a handful of projects in my career where I sat with an architect and basically they were leaving it open and said, we'll design around whatever elevator you can get.
Right.
Versus this is the elevator shaft. This is what we want. It was, what can we get? And we'll build back to it. And I remember Joby was talking about that, like, here's kind of a rough opening, if you will, for an elevator. If you get this, we'll close it in. If you need to go out, we'll go a little bit wider. So that's kind of how the supply chain is. And there are items that we will procure and they will take delivery of.
And we're also working hand in hand with your staff and finance department, take advantage of your sales tax savings that you apply, so we can capture those savings for you as well.
One last point. The operations. The other way we secure this material that come on site, for example, the apparatus bay doors, they're a specialty item, not, elevator that you mentioned, but all they require deposits front. So we work with your team and be like, all right, we're gonna have 30%, whatever that is. We get those deposits early on and they lock the price and we like the time, which is most important, delivery time.
And Michelle, if you win the Powerball lottery and you decide you want to live in Tahiti, what's the succession plan? Is there?
I think Highland Beach is pretty. I checked some properties around here. I don't think I'm going far,
Right.
But we do Kaufman Lynn. We are I'll say medium to large size company with a lot of project executive, a lot of diversified teams. So we are prepared, not just me, but anybody in our team. We have a lot of staff, and our priority is to, like Jeff said, to be your partner and to for future. It's not like everybody in construction is like a small world. Everybody knows each other in that sense. But at the same time, our reputation is what brought us here, right? And we want to make our reputation even better so we can deliver this and, build hopefully bigger and better things together.
Just to piggyback real fast on that. So you have Michelle that is a project executive, so oversees a couple of projects, and he's overseeing Riviera Beach fire stations as well, given the proximity, also using that to leverage for buying and supply to make sure that your station also gets the attention it needs. We also have one that just did a groundbreaking for Oakland Park. We have one for Miami Beach. So we have other project executives, other team members that are dealing with fire stations, or even others that have built for Boca Raton and others. So if Michelle decides to live in that house across the street, we have other people that bring that same type of experience. But we're happy he's one of the best we have, and we're happy to have him involved in yours.
Yeah, that was my other question. How many projects are you the project executive for? Michelle, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it.
So fire station wise, we're finishing up fire station in Riviera Beach right now. And we have one under design. And, this one is going to be under construction soon. In construction, that's pretty much right now. That's what it is. So, but usually I get my hands on different projects and depends. But you have my full attention, like I was telling you earlier. So any of you can call me at any time. Stay away from the weekends if possible, but regardless, you can call me anytime and I'll be here. So
you're not spread too thin or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
And to reiterate what he said at the beginning, I don't want to get lost. You will have a superintendent, project manager, you will have full-time Kaufman Lynn people that 100% they wake up, it's Highland Beach. They live the day, it's Highland Beach. They go to sleep, it's Highland Beach. So their full-time staff, I think, literally behind here will be here all the time. If construction work's going on, Kaufman Lynn is here. There will never be time when it's just the subcontractors are all by themselves.
And is it the same superintendent that we get throughout the project? It is.
Correct,
Okay.
unless, in this marketplace, which somebody hires them away, but yes, it's the same
As
staff.
long as they're employed by Kaufman Lynn, they're here. Okay. Yeah, and that's pretty much all the comments I had. Any other final comments? One more chance? Any public comments? No. Okay, so I guess we need a motion.
I move that we accept the contract for construction manager at risk services from between the town and Kaufman Lynn Construction.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Say aye.
Is
Aye. Okay. Moving on to town commission comments, Commissioner Goldberg.
Nothing more today.
Commissioner David,
I agree, nothing more.
Commissioner Stern.
Nothing on this topic. I would just like to make sure on the next meeting, we put on the agenda the discussion on public forum on the road construction project.
I do have a lot of insight on that as the week has progressed. You guys told me what you wanted. We've got something, so let's talk about it. Yeah, I got you. Yep.
Great,
Yep.
thank you.
Did everybody vote on the sign, the entry sign that is due by Friday? So everybody, please make sure you vote for the town entry sign. And that's it. So town manager. Anything else?
Nothing more, but again, FDOT, there's had some good conversations with FDOT. We've got some timeline issues, but I think it's worthy of a conversation. What I would kind of foreshadow on the discussion, if we want the public meeting type, there's a couple of meetings. Mayor, you asked them to come talk to you guys, they can do that. And then also the larger, public meeting venue where they advertise, big public meeting, everyone come up, make comments, hear the presentation. That'll take some time. The reason why it takes time is we need to find a venue that can accommodate a bunch of people at one singular time. It's not in the scope of their project. They could do it. They have to write a contractor with a subcontractor that does their public hearing coordination. They have to find a venue that meets all of their stipulated components, ADA, parking, evening access, lights, safety, all that stuff. They do not do religious facilities, folks. So they're not coming to St. Lucy's for the meeting. So that we would have to be driving somewhere as a community for that. But they've also said they're willing to come talk to you all too. And I think we need to frame up our ask. Okay. I think that's what we really need to talk about is what is our ask? We've asked them to do what they're doing today. I have a lot of documents showing that we asked for what they're doing now. So if we're asking them to do something different, timeline's pretty narrow because they're going to release this project in the next 5 to 6 months. So they need to know what we want if we're going to, if you will, demand or pressure and change or do something. We got to know what that is collectively in an organized fashion and asked purposefully. And I'm not trying to say that in any bizarre way. We just can't go in 1,000 different directions and work our way. We have to be very succinct, prompt, on time, organized, and directed. So they're a little surprised because I went back through all of our notes and our requests. What you see in those plans are the things that not only the town, but the Committee to Save Highland Beach asked for. I went back through all of their history of communications. They wanted all this drainage improvement. Remember the water everywhere. Well, they're addressing it. Now we're saying it's not a problem. So they're a little surprised. They want to be a good partner, right? They've always, I wouldn't say always, but once Representative Gossett-Seidman, Representative Caruso, and the commission started pushing, they started working with us. But if we want to ask for something of change of scope, we have to be very specific and we have to do it in relatively short order. So I'm not trying to put pressure, but we need to have, that would be a good framework for our discussion. I mean, I get it, reduce the time of construction, limit green space impacts. There's the drain, we just have to be ready to collectively discuss that in short order. And if we can't per se wait for a public meeting because it's going to take them months to do it, and I don't want us to get caught with, oh, it's in the summertime, it doesn't count. Well, that's the only time to do it because we've reached this point. Okay. So everything you want could possibly happen, but we've got to do it in a really quick and organized and purposeful fashion. That's all.
So what are we talking about next meeting? Just next meeting talking about.
We remember
what we
FDOT's a
wanna
running agenda item. So we'll be a little more, instead of, hey, we're going to have a meeting or talk, if you want to talk, we're going to talk more specifics.
About what we want FDOT.
And again, you guys are putting me on the spot so early. We have some new commissioners here. Boy, at this point in time, I don't know that we have time to collect every public opinion if we want to make a change. As the elected representatives, I think you're going to have to do it to your best possible ability based on what you feel in your heart or your stomach is those things that we want to ask or look at. So that's the hard part, is that we've reached the end. They're building what we asked them to build. Now we're asking potentially them to change what they're building. They're listening, which is the good thing. They're not saying the door is shut. So it's crept open. So if we go to kick it open, we better do it with, we want this, and that be a purpose. That, you know what I mean? Like we just can't be, we need a public meeting and conjure up everybody. We need to be focused and specific. And again, we've leveraged certain political capital to get to this point. So I don't know how much of it exists to do an about face. So we just have to be careful, but there's opportunity in there. We just got to know where we want to make that leverage on scope. Okay. And I don't have any details today, like specifically to ask you. There's some stuff in there, but you know, there's not a lot of wiggle room, but there's a little. So that's good. It's positive. It's just, we're compressed on that timeline.
Can we make sure that where there are dedicated left-hand turning lanes, that we still have them, that they don't eliminate those?
Well, there's some folks have asked, I know Father had asked me to, you know, he wanted a center turn lane. They just couldn't accommodate it within the right of way with the restraints in place. So there's some places you can't, if you have a turn lane now, you'll probably keep it. I don't see any major changes outside of some one by Toscana was excessively long. They might reduce that. But other than that, you know, as you see the road, it is a couple feet wide.
Yeah, but down the south end of town, it looked like they were eliminating one into the back gate, which that community has over 550 units, and about 300 of them use that back gate to get in. So that could create a backup all the way to Spanish River if people can't make a left-hand turn.
And again, I'll, after the meeting, they're in my office on my conference table. I'll put them in the commissioner's office. You have the 75, so you can flip through it. If you need me to flip through for somebody, staff could always meet somebody, go through what your specific questions are. Again, FDOT will come meet with us if we want something besides a big public meeting. As soon as we put FDOT on the agenda though, you know, full house, right? So we do, that was my issue with them, is we have capacity limits, right? To have a traditional meeting format. So that's why they're going to have to go off the island to accommodate what they would expect to be 250, 300 people. And that's going to take them, not that they're not going to do it, but it's going to take them a couple of months at best, which could push us into July, August timeline. And, you know, that's, you know, high travel. Some of our seasonal residents are, I mean, it's not the most opportune, as we've been told, to accommodate that. So, but at the same point in time, you know, they're letting the project at the end of this year. So they're, you know, we got to tell them soon, because they have to get it to the next phase of construction document development. They're very regimented, right? As you would imagine a big agency would be. So once the design is done, you know, we just had a meeting on Monday on 90% biddability. So the next is 100% construction plans, couple, 3 months. Then they move that over. So they'll listen. They're not shutting doors and saying, don't do it. But we're going to have to be a little more purposed in our ask if we decide to ask for something. And I can meet with you and work on those things, but we just, you know, we got to be careful not to, you know, shoot in many different directions, because I don't know that they have the time to accommodate that, or we have the time as a collective commission to facilitate it. You know what I mean? Like take everybody and kind of hone it down, because if we want some type of change, we want to ask it, I think we're going to be asking as a commission solo. So, you know, we got to make sure. The good thing might be interesting to kind of shed some insight. I mean, it's not on the agenda, so we could talk about it, but we'll talk about it yet again on Tuesday, so everybody knows that we're talking about it. They can complete the drainage components that are shown on the plans and keep two-way traffic going. All right. So that can be facilitated. And that's coming from FDOT, that they could do it because we have very shallow utilities, FYI. In the right of way, so you can only dig down a couple feet before you start hitting everything. So this, you know, this encapsulated French drain kind of on a large scale application is not going that deep. So they could do a lot of that and keep two-way traffic going, which wouldn't have that traffic jam, right?
Right.
So those are the kind of things just to kind of keep in mind as I work with them, you know, what we want to do. So
Yeah, I think that's really good to bring up, you know, that type of thing.
that's what I
You know,
asked
it's
him. I
like-
said, I played that game, and I'll share all the insights so people don't have to sit here for hours, you know, back and forth. Our conversation was very disjointed. I said, you know, if we were to ask for a scope change, what does this mean? What does this mean? What does this piece mean? how does that tie together? But he did say there's a timeline. At some point in time, it's too late, and that's, summer. So we're not like early summer, but late summer. Think like August, September is kind of like, after that, they're letting the project, the money's budgeted. They're not going to let that slip through their fingers and not do the project. So they had committed to, they are doing a paving project. It's coming. Now, we want to edit it a little bit. They can work with us a little bit. I just don't, wholesale changes aren't really available.
My concern is not having a public meeting. There was really an outcry during this election.
Sure.
And I think that the expectation is there that we will be having a public meeting. So now not to do that and just to make the decisions from the dais may be problematic.
Sure. And I said that to him, and he said he'll accommodate it, just the timeline, because I've been told it's not only a public meeting, it has to be a public meeting in season. Well, we're done. That doesn't exist for us, that option at this point, because we had one, they didn't like it in August. And let's not discount the 4,200 people that do live here year round either. So it's going to be a trick. That's why I said it's a little tricky, because we're potentially could be asking for an about face, which FDOT is like, well, you've been on us for the last 2 years to do what we're doing. And now you want to do something totally different. At points in time, 19 and 20, they said, okay, this is where we're going. You want this? We're like, drainage, you got to fix the drainage. Caruso's out there, Peggy's out there. We put in appropriation requests. We did all of these things to fix drainage. Now we're saying we don't have a drainage problem. They're a little taken at the moment, but there are some little things that we could do to make it maybe better, more palatable. And again, I agree with you. Everybody's asking for a public meeting. We can do it. It's just, we can't do a public meeting in February or March.
Well, since it's going to be on the agenda,
Yeah.
the next meeting, maybe we could talk more about it. There'll be more of a participation. Maybe there's some other way doing it in smaller formats. I didn't get the feeling that in speaking to people on the street, that it may not boil down to significant or substantive changes, but rather clarification. I think that there was a lot of conversation.
Sure.
And there may just really need to be a tweaking and everyone hear the same message. And then the feedback may narrow what issues would even be at hand to ask FDOT.
And that's good, because I've heard from one extreme to the other. I've heard, don't even do the project. I think that's off the table. They're going to do a project to this project and more. They're not doing more. So like I said, we're starting to develop that purpose with the requests. We're starting to narrow out those outline requests and say, where do we want to tweak it or ask for a tweak? It may be points of clarification. So it's gonna be hard. It's again,
And do you think it would be a palatable compromise to just have FDOT at one of our meetings?
I think initially, yes. And it'll be publicized, the agendas will be out there. And I think that those voices that want to be heard, they'll be here.
Right.
And at least if someone is here, that's not just someone that has no knowledge, they said, but someone with significant knowledge.
Here's if it gets better, right? Thanks, Chief. That we can get them in soon, but we're starting construction real soon.
Yeah.
Again, back to the real, right? It's just my joke for the day. But we're losing 20 parking spots and we're going to have a full house. You to put FDOT, they're coming. The FDOT will come. They're very nice. I don't hope people don't think FDOT hasn't been cooperative. They've been great.
Nice. Excellent.
And they will come in and talk with us directly as an agenda item. They would love to do it. And they'd rather do it sooner than later.
And we could do that quickly. And we could do that.
We could also have a bigger meeting, still have that as we move through it. Get asked as many meetings as possible and just do with our best, but we can get them here to start talking.
I mean, we have Zoom. People can, it's a different representation, but they have the ability to be here if they want.
And we're not that big. Can people walk?
Yeah, but we could do it. And here's my, we could do it at a different time too. If somebody was going to say that, we could do it at a time where staff isn't here. like later in the afternoon, have a later afternoon meeting. It can help with traffic. My gut tells me whatever we request, I know this is hard, potentially, we all have to be on the same page.
Right.
You know, split dais, I don't know, is gonna motivate them to do a lot of change. So we've got to kind of come together, which can be difficult at times. And it's not that difficult, it's just to do it in a compressed time frame becomes really challenging. It really does.
And there are logistical options too, like the trolley. Can't park, the trolley come to the meeting. I mean, there's ways to get around it.
Yeah, I mean, I can get Linelda. She likes the trolley folks. They love talking to her. So, you know, we can get rides. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be tight in here, but, what's the sign say, chief? Right there's a 90. So 90 with staff, you know, you figure you get 70, you know, we could squeeze in.
Yeah,
we could
maybe
do
have it on
something,
TV
yeah.
on a channel, like to have, yeah. If that's.
But again, I will talk, they're doing a little bit of extra work for me. I'm looking into a few things. So the meeting, you know, next week, I'll put it on there. It's a little more purposed. We'll be a little more specific under the FDOT update, just that we'll talk about, you know, scope discussion and see what we want to do.
Mhm.
If you know things you want requests, you want me to ask sooner, come see me. I'll talk to you, call me. And we're going to have to be kind of dynamic in the process to move it, you know, in the timeline. You know, most folks out there be like, oh, months, that's a lot of time.
It's not.
Not for, you know, public administration and collective public opinion and condensing that into a, again, purposed, unanimous decision. Time starts to get away from us. That's all.
Mhm.
But I think, you know, it's good news. They want to work with us. They want to be cooperative. They want to be a partner. It's just what we ask, you know.
Town attorney, anything else? Okay. Well, with that, at 2:42, we can adjourn. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.